Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something that's, well, it's everywhere now, isn't it? Generative AI.
Hmm.
We see it popping up in games, creative tools, even education. But there's a really crucial question, one we maybe don't talk about enough. What's the actual impact on our children?
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it?
Okay, so let's unpack this. We're going deep into a major study by the Alan Turing Institute. It's guided by this framework from UNICEF and the LEGO Foundation called RITEC, Responsible Innovation and Technology for Children.
Right.
Our mission here is to really understand how Gen AI is affecting kids, specifically in that 8 to 12 age range.
Which is such a critical window for development.
Exactly. And the really vital point here is that kids are probably the group most affected by all this change, yet they often have the least say in how this tech is designed or rolled out.
That's the disconnect, a big one.
So we really need to explore that gap.
And what's fascinating here, what makes this study really valuable is how they did it.
That's
Well, they didn't just do, big surveys, the quantitative stuff, the numbers, which is
Yeah.
important, obviously.
Sure.
But they combined that with these really in-depth workshops in schools, qualitative insights.
Okay. So getting beyond just the stats.
Exactly. It lets us see not just what kids are doing with Gen AI,
Yeah.
but how they're actually experiencing it, how they feel about it, on a much more personal level.
That makes sense. A more complete picture.
Yeah, a holistic view. It's something that's been, frankly, missing a lot from this whole conversation.
Absolutely. That mix sounds crucial. Okay, so let's start with the kids' perspective then, because some of these numbers, they really jumped out at me.
Hmm.
The study found nearly a quarter, 22% of children aged 8 to 12 have already used generative AI.
Yeah, almost 1 in 4.
And it's not just a one-off thing for most of them,
Ah,
right? A big chunk, 72%, are using it like once a month or even more.
right. So it's becoming part of their routine for some.
And the tools they're using. ChatGPT is the big one, 58%. Then Gemini and Snapchat's My AI are also pretty popular.
That tracks with what we see generally, I think.
What I found really interesting, though, was this subtle gender difference. Slightly more girls, 24%, reported using it compared to 19% of boys.
Hmm. That is interesting. Any initial thoughts on why that might be?
The study didn't speculate too much, but it's definitely a data point worth noting.
Yeah.
But beyond if they're using it, the really interesting part is how. What are they actually doing with these tools?
Yeah, and it's quite varied. It depends a lot on their age, too.
Okay.
Broadly speaking, about 43% use it for creative things like making fun pictures and also for finding information, learning stuff.
So creativity and learning are pretty much tied.
Right. And then just pure entertainment, digital play, that's also high up there, around 40%.
Makes sense for kids.
But here's where it gets interesting with age. The youngest ones, the 8-year-olds, they're mostly using it for entertainment,
Like games or just messing around?
probably. Yeah. Then around age 9, you see a bit of a shift towards using it for learning. 10-year-olds seem to really like creating those fun pictures we mentioned.
Right.
11-year-olds are kind of mixing entertainment and info finding. And then by 12, there's a definite jump towards using it for homework and school assignments.
Wow, so you really see this progression from basically a toy to more of a utility or even an academic tool as they get older.
Exactly. It mirrors their changing needs, cognitive development, school demands, all of that.
That really highlights how we need to think about these tools differently depending on the age group. But you mentioned something else, a really powerful finding about children with additional learning needs, ALN.
Yes, absolutely. This was one of the most striking findings, I think.
What did it show?
It showed that children with ALN are using ChatGPT significantly more often than their peers who don't have ALN. We're talking 78% versus 53%.
That's a huge difference.
It is. But it's not just how often, it's why.
Okay.
A much higher percentage of these kids are using it specifically for communication and connection. About 30% compared to 19% of their peers.
So helping them express themselves.
Exactly. And also for getting personal advice, 39% versus 16%. And even just for chatting, keeping company 37% versus 22%.
Wow. That suggests it could be a really important support tool for them, almost like a bridge.
That's a great way to put it. A bridge for self-expression, maybe social connection, for kids who might face barriers otherwise. It potentially offers a new kind of independence.
That's a really positive potential use case.
Definitely. But if we connect this back to the bigger picture, these usage patterns also shine a light on the digital divide.
How so?
Well, the study found a pretty stark contrast between private and state schools.
Right?
52% of kids in private schools reported using Gen AI, compared to just 18% in state schools.
Whoa, that's a massive gap. More than double, almost triple.
It is. And not only are they using it more, they're using it much more frequently.
Hmm.
Like 72% of those private school users were engaging it 2 times a week versus 42% in state schools.
So this isn't just about access right now. This could really impact future skills, couldn't it? Like creating a competence gap down the line.
That's the concern, absolutely. Questions around equitable access and, yeah, future digital literacy. It could worsen existing inequalities.
Hmm. And what about the qualitative side, those workshops you mentioned? Did they reveal anything else about kids' choices or concerns?
They did. It was really interesting. For creative stuff, many kids actually showed a strong preference for, real-world tactile things, arts and crafts, building things.
So not always reaching for the screen for
Right. And that influenced how they chose to engage digitally. Having appealing offline options mattered.
That's important context.
And the kids themselves. They brought up some serious concerns. A significant number worried about the environmental impact of Gen AI.
Really? At that age?
Yes, and it genuinely affected how they felt about the technology. And the other huge thing was trust.
Misinformation, you mean?
Exactly. Misinformation, disinformation. The difficulty of telling what's real and what's AI generated, that was a major worry for them.
That's heavy stuff for 8 to 12-year-olds to be grappling with, but also impressive that they are. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about the adults? Parents, teachers, how are they seeing all this?
Well, with parents and carers, there's actually quite a bit of optimism, surprisingly maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, 76% of those whose kids use Gen AI said they felt positive about it.
that is quite high. But I imagine there are worries, too.
Oh, definitely. Big worries. 82% were concerned about their kids seeing inappropriate information. That's huge.
Understandable.
And 77% worried about inaccurate information. So reliability is a major concern.
Right, the trust issue, again, but from the parent side.
Exactly. But here's the really surprising bit, I think. Less than half, only 41% were concerned about their kids using Gen AI to, cheat in school.
Only 41%. That seems low, especially compared to the other concerns.
It does seem low, doesn't it? Especially when you compare it to what teachers are saying.
Okay, so let's bring in the teachers. What's their take? Do they share those same concerns?
They share some, but there are key differences. Like the critical thinking skills parents worried about it, 76%.
Yeah.
And teachers did too, quite similarly, 72%. They both worry kids might become too trusting, less analytical.
So alignment there, but what about the cheating aspect?
Well, this is where it diverges sharply. Remember, parents' relatively low concern?
Yeah, 41%.
Well, 57% of teachers who knew students were using Gen AI for schoolwork reported that kids were actually submitting AI-generated work as their own.
57%. That's a massive contrast to the parents' view.
Huge. And interestingly, it was reported more in state schools, 60%, than private schools, 47%.
Why do you think there's such a big gap between parent and teacher perception on cheating?
It could be a few things. Maybe parents aren't fully aware of how sophisticated the tools are now or what's actually happening in the classroom. Or maybe there's a different understanding of what cheating even means when you use an AI tool. It's complex.
Yeah, the definition might be shifting. Now, how do teachers feel about using Gen AI themselves for their own work?
Well, they're much more positive. Very optimistic, actually.
How?
Like 85% said it boosted their productivity. 88% felt confident using it. 61% trust it for their work. And 82% felt it had a positive impact on their teaching overall. Over 3/4 felt it improved their performance.
So for their own tasks, it's seen as a really valuable assistant.
Absolutely.
A big help.
I sense a but coming. How do they feel about students using it?
Yeah, that's where the mixed feelings really come in. It's much more complex.
Okay.
On the one hand, a good majority, 64%, see it as a great tool for students with those additional learning needs we talked about.
Right, reinforcing that potential benefit.
Yes.
Right.
But on the other hand, almost half, 49%, think it negatively impacts class engagement.
Kids zoning out on screens, maybe.
Could be. And 48% believe it makes student ideas less diverse, sort of homogenizing their thinking.
That's a worry. What about creativity? Very mixed views there. About 40% agree it has a positive impact, but 43% disagree. And overall, only 45% of all teachers surveyed agree it fosters creativity, while 23% disagree. So no clear consensus.
So really divided on the creative aspect.
Yeah, and crucially, nearly half, 49%, are concerned about the impact of Gen AI on student well-being.
So to sum up the teacher view, great for my work, but kind of worried about what it does to students' engagement, originality, and even their well-being.
That's a pretty good summary, yeah. Cautious optimism for themselves, much more caution regarding student use.
Okay, so let's try and pull these different threads together now. We've got the kids' usage and views, the parents' optimism and worries, the teachers' divided perspectives. What are the big takeaways when you connect all these dots?
Well, using both the surveys and the workshops was key here. It really layered the understanding. And two themes consistently came through loud and clear.
What were they?
First, as we've touched on a few times, the really significant potential for Gen AI to support young people with additional learning needs.
Right. The kids wanted it. The stats showed they used it for expression.
Exactly. Kids in the workshops explicitly said they wanted tools developed for this, and ALN kids themselves reported using it always to express thoughts way more than their peers, 53% versus 20%. That's powerful.
It's a huge potential there. What was the second big theme?
The second one was the flip side, really. The urgent, pervasive concern about inappropriate and harmful content.
The safety aspect.
Yes. Generated by the AI and then accessed by children. Remember, 82% of parents were worried about inappropriate info. That concern echoed across the board.
So massive potential for support, but also significant risks around content. That makes sense. But where did the different research methods show slightly different things? Did the workshops reveal nuances the surveys missed?
Absolutely. That's where it got really fascinating. For instance, the surveys suggested, generally, that more experience with Gen AI led to more positive feelings about it.
Okay, that sounds logical.
But the workshops showed something more complex. Some kids actually became less positive after trying it out.
Oh, why was that?
Often because the outputs didn't really reflect their own identity or interests. A specific point that came up was children of color feeling frustrated, sometimes even upset, because the images the AI generated didn't represent them properly.
Wow. That really highlights how important inclusive design and bias mitigation are. It's not just a technical issue, it directly impacts kids' feelings and engagement.
Precisely. It shows how experiences can be very different for diverse groups.
And you mentioned the school disparity earlier.
Yes, that came through strongly too. The private versus state school gap in awareness and attitudes was really clear in the workshops. Many kids in the state-funded workshops were literally using Gen AI for the first time right there.
Which just hammers home that point about equitable access, doesn't it? Access to the tech itself, but also the learning opportunities around it.
Exactly. And another key difference highlighted was between adult and child perspectives.
How so?
Well, like we discussed, teachers were generally pretty positive about using Gen AI themselves, but much more concerned about kids using it, worried about well-being, schoolwork quality, etc.
Right.
But the workshops, they really showed that children, when given good information and the space to talk, are capable of really nuanced discussions. They can weigh pros and cons, make informed choices.
So we shouldn't underestimate their capacity to engage critically.
Not at all. So what does this all mean? I think the vital takeaway is that you have to engage children directly. You can't just guess what they need or how they feel, their experiences, their concerns, their ideas. They're absolutely essential.
We can't build for them without them. You said that earlier, and it really sticks.
Exactly.
Okay. So armed with all these rich insights, this complex picture of benefits and risks, what are the concrete recommendations coming out of this? What should policymakers, developers, schools actually do?
The core message is that Gen AI can be beneficial, but only if it's developed safely, responsibly. And this is the crucial part, with meaningful input from children themselves.
So child participation is non-negotiable.
Absolutely. So recommendation 1, policymakers need to actively seek out children's views. Not just token gestures, but really learn from their experiences when making AI policy. Ground it in their reality.
Makes sense. What about the tech companies?
Developers must consider children's needs from the start and involve them in the design process. And this isn't just for kids' apps, it's for any tool children might access, because we know they use general-purpose tools too.
Right, like the 8-12-year-olds using ChatGPT.
Exactly. And third, we need safe, age-appropriate tools. Perhaps some kind of guidance or certification scheme, especially for classroom use, that flags tools as genuinely safe and effective for learning, particularly for supporting those ALN students.
Okay, a kind of safe for school label. And building on that ALN point, that seems critical. What about creativity and play? You mentioned kids still like hands-on stuff.
Yes, that's another key recommendation. Support diverse forms of play. Gen AI should be seen as something that adds value alongside paints, blocks, craft materials, whatever, not as a replacement. Augment, don't substitute.
Good point. Keep the offline option strong. What else?
Improving AI literacy is huge. We need lessons about Gen AI, what it is, how to use it safely, critically integrated into the school curriculum, primary and secondary.
And not just the how-to.
No, critically the ethics too. Bias, environmental impact, academic integrity, plagiarism, all that needs to be part of the conversation. And alongside school curriculum, clear guidance for parents is essential.
Okay, education for kids and parents, and the bias issue that came up in the workshops.
That needs direct action. Developers have to work on improving representation so that AI outputs reflect the diversity of children using them. It matters for engagement and inclusion.
Definitely. What about closing that access gap between schools?
Governments need to step up. Consider targeted support for getting appropriate AI tools into state schools, and develop free resources to help bridge that digital divide. It's an equity issue.
Right. And you mentioned kids were worried about the environment.
Yes, so transparent reporting of the environmental impact is needed in ways children can actually understand. It acknowledges their concern and promotes accountability.
That's an interesting angle. Finally, what about the teachers using it?
Responsible use among teachers is key. They need proper training, resources, maybe through formal professional development, and perhaps schools should look at institutional licenses, paired with clear guidelines to ensure teachers are using these powerful tools ethically and effectively.
Wow. Okay, that's a comprehensive set of recommendations, really covering all the bases.
It tries to connect all the findings into actionable steps.
What an incredibly useful deep dive. It's so clear that generative AI is this double-edged sword for children, huge opportunities, but also really significant challenges and risks. This research gives us such a vital map for navigating that complexity responsibly. And if there's one thing that's come through loud and clear, it's the absolute necessity of listening. Listening to parents, teachers, developers, but most importantly, listening to the children themselves. Their voices have to be central.
Absolutely. Which really leaves us with a crucial question to think about, doesn't it? For you, listening.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that this generation growing up surrounded by AI aren't just passive consumers of it? How do we ensure they become active, informed participants who can actually shape this technology so it genuinely serves their well-being, empowers all their diverse futures, and truly respects their needs as they grow?